"That'll be $12, the young man behind the food truck counter said without looking up, his hands already reaching for the next order. He didn't recognize the woman standing in front of him, didn't see the way passers-by were doing double takes, didn't notice the carefully casual way she'd pulled her baseball cap low over her eyes. Susan Sarandon handed over a $20 bill and smiled. "Keep the change." For 40 years, she'd been one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces, but right now she was just another customer at Miguel's Tacos on the corner of Sunset and Vine. And somehow, that felt like exactly what she needed. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on the Los Angeles pavement, creating those shimmering heat waves that made the city look like a mirage. Susan had been walking for 20 minutes, trying to clear her head after a particularly brutal meeting with her agent. Another role she'd lost to a younger actress. Another reminder that Hollywood had an expiration date stamped on women the moment they turned 50, and she was well past that now. If this story is already touching something deep inside you, I need to ask for your help. I'm working so hard to build this channel from the ground up, and I'm trying to reach my first 100 subscribers. You could be one of the very first people to join me on this incredible journey. If you hit that like button and subscribe right now, you'd be supporting a dream that means everything to me. Please, don't let me do this alone. The smell of grilled onions and seasoned meat had drawn her to the bright yellow truck like a beacon. Miguel Hernandez, 26 years old with calloused hands and dreams bigger than his current reality, was focused entirely on the sizzling plancha in front of him. This truck was everything to him, his inheritance from his father, his ticket to something better, his way of honoring a family tradition that stretched back 3 generations. 3 carnitas, 2 al pastor, Miguel called out to his sister Rosa, who was manning the register. The lunch rush was brutal, but they were making it work. They had to. The truck payment was due next week and they were still short $200. Susan found a small patch of shade near a bus stop and unwrapped her tacos. The first bite transported her back 30 years, to a tiny place in San Antonio, where she'd eaten between takes on a forgotten indie film. The flavors were authentic, honest, nothing like the sanitized versions served in Beverly Hills restaurants that charged $30 for what Miguel was selling for $4. "Excuse me." A teenage girl approached hesitantly, phone already in hand. "Are you?" Susan nodded with practiced grace, posed for the selfie, signed the girl's notebook. The girl's excitement was infectious, pure in a way that reminded Susan why she'd fallen in love with acting in the first place. The ability to touch people's lives, to matter in some small way. But as the girl walked away, practically vibrating with joy, Susan noticed Miguel watching from his truck. Their eyes met for a moment, and she saw something unexpected there. Not recognition, not starstruck admiration, but curiosity. Professional interest. He'd been watching her interact with the fan, studying her kindness, her patience. The next day, Susan came back. Same order, same $20 bill, same genuine smile. Miguel was there again, sweat beading on his forehead as he worked the grill with the precision of someone who'd been doing this his whole life. "You're back," he said, this time looking directly at her. "Most people, they try our food once, they either love it or they don't come back. You strike me as someone who knows good food." "Your father's recipe?" Susan asked, surprising him. Miguel's eyebrows shot up. "How did you? The way you move around that grill. That's not something you learn from YouTube. That's generational knowledge." She paused, studying his face. "Plus, you have his eyes in that photo taped to your register." For the first time in weeks, Miguel smiled, really smiled. "He died 2 years ago. Left me this truck and about 50 recipes he never wrote down. I'm still trying to get them right." "Did you hit subscribe yet?" "I'm still working toward those first 100 subscribers, and you could be the one who makes the difference. Help me reach that goal." Something shifted between them in that moment. Not romantic. Miguel was young enough to be her son, but a recognition of shared understanding. They were both performers in their own way, both carrying on traditions, both fighting to matter in a world that seemed increasingly indifferent to authenticity. Susan started coming by every few days. Sometimes she'd eat there, Sometimes she'd order extra and distribute the food to homeless people camped nearby. Miguel began to anticipate her orders, started setting aside the best cuts of meat when he saw her approaching. "You know," he said one Thursday afternoon as he handed her the familiar white paper bag, "you're famous, aren't you?" Susan laughed, the sound carrying genuine amusement. "What gave it away? The way people look at you, the way you carry yourself. Plus, my sister Googled you after you left yesterday." He grinned sheepishly. "Susan Sarandon. My mom used to love your movies." "Used to?" "She passed 5 years ago. Cancer." Miguel's voice softened. "But she made me promise to always treat every customer like family, famous or not. Said you never know what kind of day someone's having." The wisdom of that statement hit Susan harder than she expected. Here was this young man, working 16-hour days in a food truck, carrying on his family's legacy with more grace and authenticity than half the people she knew in Hollywood. "Your mother sounds like she was an incredible woman." "She was. She would have liked you." Miguel wiped his hands on his apron. "Not because you're famous, but because you tip Rosa even when you pay me, and you never make people feel bad for asking for pictures. That matters." Over the following weeks, Susan found herself looking forward to these brief conversations more than most of the meetings on her calendar. Miguel had a way of seeing the world that was both practical and optimistic. He talked about expansion plans, maybe a second truck, eventually a small restaurant. He spoke about his dreams the way she once had, before the industry had worn away some of her edges. "Why acting?" he asked one day, the question coming out of nowhere as he prepared her usual order. "Why food?" she countered. Miguel considered this seriously. "Because it's honest. You put good ingredients together with care, people taste it. They either like it or they don't. But there's no pretending. It's real." "That's exactly why acting," Susan said quietly. "At least that's why I started. To tell real stories about real people, to make something honest." She didn't mention how increasingly rare that felt in her career lately. How many scripts she was being offered that reduced women her age to wise mentors or bitter ex-wives. How the industry seemed to believe that women stopped being interesting the moment they stopped being conventionally beautiful. One afternoon in October, Susan arrived to find the truck closed. A handwritten sign taped to the window read, "Family Emergency." She felt an unexpected pang of worry. When had she started caring so much about this young man and his sister? If you're feeling what I'm feeling right now, please don't forget to subscribe. I'm so close to my first 100 subscribers, and your support would mean everything to me. 3 days later, Miguel was back. But something had changed. The easy smile was forced and dark circles shadowed his eyes. "Everything okay?" Susan asked gently. Miguel shrugged, not meeting her gaze. "Rosa's in the hospital. Appendicitis turned complicated. She's fine now, but..." He gestured vaguely at the truck. "Hospital bills, insurance doesn't cover everything." Susan understood immediately. The American healthcare system was a special kind of cruelty, capable of bankrupting families over routine medical emergencies. "How much?" "It's not your problem," Miguel said quickly. "We'll figure it out. Maybe sell the truck, start over somewhere cheaper." The thought of this truck, this authentic piece of his family's history, disappearing into the anonymous sprawl of Los Angeles was unbearable. Susan had grown up in Queens, had watched gentrification slowly erase the immigrant-owned businesses that made neighborhoods feel like home. She knew what the city lost when places like this vanished. "What if I invested?" The words came out before she'd fully thought them through. Miguel's head snapped up. "What?" "Not charity. A business investment. You mentioned wanting to expand. What if instead of one truck you had 3? Different neighborhoods, same authentic food. I provide capital, you provide expertise." The conversation that followed was careful, respectful. Miguel wasn't naive. He understood that Susan's involvement would bring publicity, probably more customers than his small operation could handle. But he also recognized an opportunity to honor his family's legacy on a larger scale. "Why?" he asked finally. "You could invest in anything." Why a taco truck? Susan was quiet for a long moment, watching the late afternoon sun paint the buildings gold. Because in a city full of pretending, you make something real. Because your food tastes like it matters. Because your mother raised you right. And that's becoming rarer than you think. 6 months later, Miguel's Tacos had become Miguel's Kitchen. 3 trucks and a small restaurant in East LA. The original truck still worked the same corner, but now it was part of something bigger. Rosa managed the books with the efficiency of someone who'd learned business the hard way, and Miguel had hired 2 of his cousins to help with the expansion. Susan stopped by the original truck on a Tuesday in April, ordering her usual. A small crowd had gathered, not because of her, but because word had spread about the quality of the food. She watched Miguel work, still moving with that inherited precision, still treating every customer with the respect his mother had taught him. "You know what the best part is?" Miguel said as he handed her the bag. "People don't come here because a movie star invested. They come back because the food's good, just like you did." "Just like I do," Susan corrected, already planning tomorrow's visit. As she walked away, she heard Miguel call out to the next customer with genuine warmth. "What can I make for you today?" It was the same question he'd been asking for years, but now it carried the weight of possibility, of a future that honored the past while embracing change. Sometimes the most beautiful stories aren't about fame or fortune. They're about the simple recognition that we all have something valuable to offer, and that the most meaningful connections happen when we see each other clearly. What moments of unexpected connection have changed your life? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and I'd love to hear from you.